What happens when an 11-year-old black girl with a first-class ticket meets a flight attendant who decides she doesn't belong? One silent dismissal sends her to the back of the plane. What happened next shook the entire airline industry. This story doesn't begin with outrage. It begins with something soft, gentle. Her name was Leah Thompson, 11 years old, bright-eyed, and wearing her best smile like it was sewn into that baby blue butterfly dress. She stepped onto flight 227 from New York to San Francisco, not like a child used to luxury, but like one who understood what it meant to be grateful. You could tell by the way she held her ticket, like it was something sacred, like it meant something, because it did. That seat in first class wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't some lucky upgrade. It was a gift. Her mother, Monica, had been working overtime for 3 years at the city hospital. A black woman with calloused hands, a tired back, and the kind of love that moves mountains. Just to buy this one experience for her baby girl. A first-class seat. Not to prove anything to anyone. Just so Leah could, for once, know what it felt like to be treated like she mattered. Leah walked down that jet bridge like she was stepping into a dream. Hair braided with care, tiny silver bows glinting under the airport lights. Her sparkly sneakers lit up slightly with every step, and when she reached seat 2A, window view, wide leather cushion, neatly folded blanket, she paused, took a deep breath, then sat down gently, like she didn't want to wrinkle the sky. She wasn't bouncing around or kicking the seat in front of her like some kids do. No, Leah sat upright, polite, soaking it all in. The warm towel, the glass of orange juice served in actual glass, the kind smiles from strangers. It was everything her mama had promised. And then, of course, it happened. Right when she handed an old white gentleman his pen back after he'd dropped it, reaching into his briefcase. Right after she smiled up at him with all the grace and kindness in the world. The flight attendant appeared. Now, she didn't come over like someone offering help. She came like someone doing a sweep for something that didn't belong, like security spotting a loose wire. Her eyes scanned the cabin, then stopped cold on Leah. The expression on her face said it all. Something about this picture ain't right. She leaned down with that customer service voice that's always more condescending than polite. "Sweetheart," she said, lips tight, "I think you're in the wrong seat." Leah blinked. "No, ma'am," she said softly, pulling out her ticket like a badge of honor. "This is my seat, 2A. The woman didn't even look at it, didn't check the manifest. "Oh, I'm sure someone gave that to you," she said, the smile now gone. "But you need to move to the back, okay? You can't sit here." And just like that, every head in first class started turning, not because of Leah, but because the woman's tone had dropped into something ugly. The old man with the pen, he looked shocked. "I saw her come in with that ticket," he said firmly. "She's got every right to be here." But the flight attendant's voice sharpened like a knife. "This does not concern you, sir. Let us handle it." And say, "Let us handle it," like the child was a problem to be dealt with. Leah froze. You could see the panic bloom behind her eyes, like she was trying to figure out what she'd done wrong, even though she hadn't done anything wrong. But her hands started to shake. Slowly, wordlessly, she got up from her seat, clutching her little backpack, like it was the only thing holding her together. She made that long, humiliating walk down the aisle while the whole cabin watched. Some confused, some whispering, most doing what people always do in these moments. Nothing. Seat 2. He stayed empty the entire flight. The flight attendant didn't reassign it. Didn't apologize. Didn't even glance back. She had made her decision, and that was that. And Leah? She spent the next 6 hours in the very last row of the plane, next to a rattling bathroom door and a tray cart that slammed into her elbow every 20 minutes. Her little shoes now tucked under the seat, her hands folded tight in her lap. She didn't complain, didn't cry, not at first. But somewhere over the Rockies, when the lights dimmed and the cabin quieted, the tears came. Silent ones, the kind that roll slow but hit deep. When the plane landed and passengers began to gather their things, seat 2A remained untouched. Empty. Just like the apology she never got. At the arrival gate, Monica was waiting with open arms, ready to hear about warm towels and fancy snacks. But when she saw her daughter's face, the red eyes, the silence, the pain, that smile froze. She knelt down. "Baby, what happened?" Leah whispered, just a few words. "She said I wasn't supposed to be there." And that was it. Monica's heart cracked, not loud, but sharp, like something permanent had shifted. She stood, took her daughter's hand, and walked toward baggage claim with a fire burning behind her eyes. She didn't yell, she didn't curse, but something in her said clear as day, "You don't get to do this to my baby, not without consequences." By the next morning, the sun hadn't even finished rising before Monica Thompson made a decision. She sat at her kitchen table with her phone in one hand and a photo in the other, the one she took of Leah at the airport, sitting silent on a molded plastic chair, shoulders slumped, eyes down, that first-class sparkle long gone. She uploaded the image to Instagram. No filters, no hashtags, just truth. Her caption wasn't angry, not yet. It was steady, heavy, the kind of honesty that doesn't shout, because it doesn't have to. "I saved for 3 years, so my daughter could experience one day of being treated like she mattered. One day of being seen as worthy of the front row, not just in a plane, but in this life. And it was taken from her in minutes. No explanations, just a quiet walk to the back. She did everything right, and still, it wasn't enough." By lunchtime, that post had gone viral. 13,000 shares in 6 hours, 30,000 by dinner. The comments section exploded, not just with sympathy, but with stories. Grown adults recalling moments they'd tried to forget. People who looked like Leah, talked like Monica, lived through it all with different details but the same sting. A black woman from Atlanta. "They told me I looked suspicious in business class. A college student. They asked me to prove my boarding pass twice on the same flight. An elder from Detroit. It's been this way since I was her age. Still is." And when the video clips started surfacing, game over. Someone on the flight had captured the whole exchange. Not full-on confrontation, just enough. The flight attendant towering over that little girl, the old man's protest, the long walk down the aisle. No raised voices, no chaos. Just a moment so soaked in quiet injustice, it screamed louder than any shouting ever could. It didn't take long before journalists picked it up. By evening, a handful of blogs had covered it. By midnight, the story had been picked up by major outlets. And the airline, well, they finally broke their silence. A dry, 2-sentence statement hit their official Twitter feed like a soggy napkin. "We are aware of the incident on Flight 227 and are currently investigating. The flight attendant followed standard internal procedures." That was it. No name, no apology, just procedure. If they thought that would calm the storm, they miscalculated. Because while they were focused on protocol, the people were focused on Leah, on Monica, on all the kids who'd ever been taught they needed proof just to take their rightful seat. And Monica? She wasn't done, not even close. She started fielding interview requests, but she was careful. No sensationalism, no talking heads trying to hijack her pain. She chose the ones who actually listened, who let her tell the story the way it deserved to be told. In one quiet but powerful interview, she said, "My daughter didn't lose a seat. She lost a piece of herself that day, and I'll be damned if I let the world act like it never happened." Meanwhile, Leah had stopped eating breakfast, stopped smiling. She refused to go back to school, not because she was ashamed of herself, but because she knew, even at 11, that the world wasn't always kind to little girls who looked like her. She asked her mother one night in a whisper, "If I'd had different skin, would she have let me stay?" And Monica, a woman who had braved emergency rooms, night shifts, and heartbreak, had no answer. Just tears. Behind the scenes, former airline employees started leaking anonymous statements. One flight attendant wrote, "We're told to watch for certain problem profiles. It's not on paper, but we all know what it means. It's code." Another added, "They train us to escalate, but when the passenger's black, the rules change. Fast." And then came the real shocker. A senior pilot resigned and went public on national television. Gray-haired, sharp-suited, steady voice. He looked into the camera and said, "That little girl did nothing wrong. I've flown for this airline 22 years, and what I saw that day violated every principle we're supposed to stand for." I couldn't stay silent. Not anymore. That one clip went global in hours. And while the people rose up, reposting, writing, organizing, Wall Street took the notice. First, the airline's stock dipped, a tiny drop, 2%, then 5%. Then someone, somewhere high up, realized this wasn't just a PR hiccup. This was a reckoning, because the very next morning, as major civil rights groups started circling and 3 prominent celebrities pulled sponsorship deals, that stock dropped another 6%, then another. Within hours, the company had lost nearly $11 billion in valuation. Inside their sleek downtown headquarters, the mood shifted fast. What had started as a contained fire was now a 4-alarm inferno. Executives called emergency meetings. Board members demanded answers. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, Monica sat in her living room, holding Leah close. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just said, they thought they could bury this, but they picked the wrong mother and the wrong little girl. This is the climax. Everything you've been waiting for. It's here. Stay locked in, because what happens next? It puts every player face to face with the truth. By Friday morning, America was listening. Really listening. Not just scrolling, not just nodding. Eyes were glued to screens, radios turned up, office TVs unmuted. On one of the country's top morning shows, sitting side by side beneath bright studio lights, were Monica and her daughter Leah, calm, composed, and powerful, without raising a single voice. The host, a seasoned journalist with decades behind the desk, asked the question gently, "What would you want to say to the people who didn't believe you belonged in that seat?" Leah looked out into the camera, into millions of homes, and with a soft but unshakable voice, she said, "I used to think maybe I didn't belong, but now I know I do. I just didn't belong to them." And in that moment, the entire country seemed to stop breathing. It wasn't dramatic. It was real. Real enough to slap silence across a live studio. Real enough to go viral in seconds. The hashtag #LetLeeSit exploded across every platform. Celebrities, civil rights leaders, educators, grandparents, they didn't just repost, they rallied. People painted murals. A poet in Chicago turned her words into a school assembly anthem. A youth theater in Baltimore renamed their stage after her. Leah wasn't just a little girl anymore. She was a message. And behind the scenes, the airline was cracking wide open. The board of directors, now deep in panic and public pressure, made swift, very public moves. First, they let go of their PR chief, the same one who approved that stiff corporate statement, then the head of customer experience. And then, in a move nobody expected, the CEO himself stood at a podium, no teleprompter, no spin, and said, "We failed. We failed Leah. We failed Monica. And we failed every passenger who ever felt unseen on our planes. We are not here today to protect our image. We're here to take responsibility. And we start with ourselves." The fallout wasn't just words. They announced 4 immediate actions, not down the line, not after review. But now, says, the flight attendant involved was officially and immediately dismissed. A full independent audit into internal discrimination policies was launched. Mandatory anti-bias training for every employee, from the boardroom to the baggage handlers. And most importantly, the creation of the Lee Thompson Foundation, dedicated to giving children from underrepresented communities access to travel, education, and advocacy resources. That name, Leah Thompson Foundation, hit headlines like thunder. And just when the public thought the story had finally settled, something unexpected landed in Monica's mailbox. A handwritten letter, no return address, simple envelope. It was from her, the flight attendant, the same woman who had stripped Leah of her seat, and her dignity, at 30,000 feet. The letter was raw, awkward, human. "I didn't expect the world to stand up for you. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe that's what I needed to see. I can't take back what I did, but I can learn from it. I'm sorry, and thank you. You reminded me that everyone deserves to be seen." Monica read it once, then again, then sat with it in her lap for a long time. Finally, she folded it carefully, placed it inside a keepsake box tied with a gold ribbon, and handed it to her daughter. "This is yours. This is part of your story now. You earned this, every bit of it." The next morning, Monica and Leah boarded another plane, same airline, different flight. This time, no one questioned their ticket. No one asked if they belonged. Leah sat in first class, seat 1A, a seat given not out of pity, but, in honor, a symbol. Just before takeoff, the pilot stepped into the aisle, silver hair, crisp uniform. He bent slightly and asked, "Miss Thompson, are you flying with us today?" Leah looked up, smiled like someone who had finally stepped into her light, and said, "I am now." And as that plane lifted off the ground, the world watched a little girl, not just fly, but rise,